Hi, this is Lawrence McKendall, and this is Scooberlicious Ultimate. Thanks for joining us. The objective of Scooberlicious Ultimate is there's a lot of amazing people doing cool things in the sport of ultimate frisbee, and today is one of these days to highlight. Seattle Cascades came together to play the inaugural Cascade Cup. And to quote the Cascade website, it was a mixed gender showcase showcasing the top male and female talent on the West Coast. And because of the Cascades' mission and vision, it was really the wellspring of this amazing introductory event. And so to help me celebrate this important topic for gender equality, I'd like to bring in my guest. Come on in, Magon and Audrey Lyman.
Hello.
Hi, hello. Are we in focus? We're everything. I got my son playing director today. So welcome, ladies. How are you?
Good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. You came up from tryouts. Where'd you come from?
Tryouts for Fury were in Stanford.
Stanford. We're in Oakland right now, and that's a bit of a journey. I appreciate that. Audrey,
I also came from Stanford for Nightlock tryouts.
How's that going for you?
Good. It was fun. Yeah.
Anything you want to elaborate? How about you?
Tryouts are a pretty great time. I mean, it's like the beginning of a season, so I'm like super excited for it just to ramp up from here. Fury tryouts are sweet because like we include it as part of the season. Like anyone that comes to those tryouts are part of the Fury 2017 season. Nice. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's very good. So I won't go down that road, but it's very interesting to hear that response. So this is the first of three? Or the second of three?
Second of three.
Second of
yeah.
three.
Mm-hmm.
And what about Nightlock?
Same.
Second of three?
Pretty much the same schedule.
Very good. Cool. Well, thank you. So let's segue into the Cascade Cup. Cascade Cup was an inaugural event. It was a mixed gender event, and these two ladies participated in. And so tell me about your approach to the event. You know, when you heard about it, were you excited to be a part of it, or was it one of these things that like, oh, just as one game, I just want to maybe jump in and play?
No, yeah, I was super excited to try out for the team. I love mixed ultimate, and so to be able to play in front of a crowd, I think was kind of just like, yeah, I definitely want to do that.
Yeah, I was really excited to hear about the event, mostly just to showcase, mixed ultimate as well. I definitely didn't think I'd be able to play in it, so that was just a bonus.
A bonus to get in? Now, I'm familiar with Audrey's game, and it's a nice, I've had the pleasure of playing with Audrey. Now, I've never had the pleasure of playing with you, but I know you're a baller, and I saw you in the game. Just to point out, you two had amazing D late in the game. You had an amazing catch for the second quarter. Back in then, they were sick. So it was great. So before we jump into some of the highlights, what was it when you got up there? What was the process preparing for the game with your teammates? Were you going around viewing Seattle as a team, or was it till you got to the game where things started to come together?
Yeah, things didn't really come together till the game. Well, okay, things came together before, but we didn't practice or anything the way that Seattle had been, and Seattle was posting the videos and everything showing their practices.
Yeah.
So we had an unofficial practice in the hallway of the hotel we were staying at,
Nice.
Where we kind of decided how we would do our offensive and defensive switching and strategies and things like that, and who would play and how we would transition between points, because it's a lot faster in the pro game.
Right.
Yeah, it was neat being like a pro athlete and being like flown up to Seattle and like had our own hotels and transportation all covered. So that was definitely different from club where everything's out of pocket. So that was pretty neat.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't even venture down that to compare and contrast. When you in pros, you hear so-and-so signed with a team, which is completely not the vernacular with club, which is interesting, but it's interesting. So you were picked up, you were shuttled around, that's very interesting. So when you got to the hotel, were you under a pseudonym? You were Mrs. Shaquille O'Neal, and you were
No, we were not.
in case the fans get
next year.
No, okay, next year. Okay, it wasn't that type of party. I see. Okay, so when you got to the game, what was that like?
It was exciting. Like the Seattle Stadium is super big and awesome. I was excited to play in front of that stadium and just in front of a crowd.
Yeah, and the Space Needle's right there.
I was going to say, very conspicuous
right.
landmark
Yeah.
right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
It was very cool. And how were the conditions?
Pretty good. There was a wind through the field, through the stadium, but it was kind of a nice wind.
Yeah.
Thrower's wind.
I was going to say, you could not tell if there was any wind at all. They didn't show any flags waving, but I saw everybody was bundled up. Was it cold?
It was pretty chilly.
Yeah. They didn't even talk about weather, but I could sort of say, I didn't see breath out there, but it looked like there was some level of cold out there. But I guess as soon as you started playing, that went away.
Definitely.
Very much so. So great. So you're getting ready to get, the team is together on the field. What were some of the last minute huddle conversations to get you psyched?
Intense defense was kind of the thing that we were talking about. It's just like, let's just play really intense defense and, hit the open person and we'll just flow from there pretty much.
Yeah.
It's just like everybody here, we can trust each other. There's no reason not to trust everybody, so let's just all play our game.
Yeah. Lucas Dahlman and Meaty Chang were our captains, our elected captains. And they kind of like mentally prepped us before the game to focus on like, although there's a crowd, although there are people are like watching this event and like thinking it's a very big deal, which it is, that all we can control is like how we play on the field, and that contribution will like speak for itself basically.
Right.
So that was pretty big, I thought, getting us all on the same mental page.
Nice.
And that, then our physical like contributions kind of went from there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now I know I interviewed Lucas a little bit prior, and he mentioned that's something that what he said. But he also said that maybe had something, was a really good, a motivational speech in the huddle. Do you recall that, or was that sort of a combination of what those speeches were?
It was kind of a combo.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Meaty's great. Everything she said was pretty spot on. I don't remember verbatim what she was saying, but it was along those lines.
Right. So the interesting thing is when you jump from club to pro, the AUDL, the field is wider. So when you were in the hallway talking about strategy, what were some of the nuances between playing club and playing pro that you noticed that was quite evident in the strategy?
Well, everything just has to like happen faster, because not only is the field wider and longer, but there's also a shorter stall count. So like everything that we, like the timing and everything just had to be a couple seconds earlier, or
Yeah.
So.
And just using the space, like I think it's very easy for us to kind of like, or it was easy for us to kind of like get into 1/3 of the field and just play within that 1/3. So definitely like emphasize like use that space, use your swings. Like people are open with this much space, no matter, just depending on the throw. Yeah.
No, interesting. So what was interesting is when I saw a couple of stall counts going, you seemed to be very comfortable when it came down to the stall count. So you didn't seem, I could see where 7 could make people more hesitant, but you seemed to be very calm. Was it easy to get used to the quick stall counts?
Well, it was kind of weird because we were told not to stall count, which is definitely not something I've ever done.
Well, actually call stall count out loud. Right?
Yeah,
because
right.
The refs
count it, and
exactly.
they actually asked us to not stall count for them.
Yeah, how does that work? That too. I mean, I understand, but coming from a position where a game where you're actually, you're required to do. Yes.
It was weird.
I definitely like started saying stall 1. I mean,
Yeah.
just like back off.
Yeah.
I definitely started a lot of my marks with a stall 1.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Now, is the ref counting out loud? We just see his.
You see his hands, and then he says 5.
Okay.
And then they say 7.
I didn't know
And the
that.
5 is supposed to be loud enough for you to hear, but
You're playing, like you're not listening.
yeah, you're focused on something else.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't see anybody, at least on the Flamethrowers, be phased by the speed of that, and that was nice to see. So that wasn't a crack. Was there anything else that sort of tripped you up? That maybe, wow, this is a different animal, or was it pretty much just a wider field, same animal?
Yeah, I think just wider field, using that space, and also I think the wind definitely had an effect on the play, especially in that stadium where like the wind is just not very consistent throughout. Like once it gets past the stadium where the stadium like stops, like the seats stop, the wind kind of like picks up from there. So the end zone plays, finishing plays is kind of difficult.
So you're out there, first pull for you if you're on the line. You were on the D line. Were you a D2? Both D?
Was there D in our line?
I think I just I just ended up playing a lot of D lines.
Yeah.
Just
I guess
the
I
nature of our lines,
Sure.
but yeah, we mostly just kind of you went on if it was your turn. It didn't matter if it was O or D.
Yeah.
Okay. So the pull's coming your way, O or D, however it's going your way, away from you. Jitters? Just take a breath and here we go. Another day in the office.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you have jitters?
I actually didn't, surprisingly enough. Yeah.
I definitely had jitters beforehand, but like once we were playing, it was like, okay, we're just playing Ultimate. It's just supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be a high stress.
Yeah.
It's supposed to get more people excited about this game.
No, I could see that very much so, and you look very comfortable. So, any highlights besides the ones I mentioned that you thought were like, this is kind of cool?
I mean,
Maybe
obviously
not even
Audrey's
yours,
layout
yes. That was
was
sick.
pretty
That was
sweet.
sick. Exactly. That was,
I don't know. I mean, all of your throws.
they were solid.
No, I mean, I feel like both genders on both teams like contributed so much to the game.
Hannah Kawhi
Yeah,
on Seattle
was
just kind of
unfazed by the wind at
Yeah.
all overthrows.
just
Yes.
ran their offense.
Yeah.
There was the other woman. Who was another woman? Reynolds? I want to say she had red hair. They were
That
running the
sounds
offense
familiar.
between her and
Oh.
Vegas.
Vegas.
She had red hair.
Yes,
Red hair.
Kelly Johnson.
Kelly Johnson.
Kelly
yeah.
Johnson. Yeah,
Yep.
and they were running the offense through her and Kawhi and Kelly Johnson, and they were like they were stone cold.
Yeah.
As well.
No, it looked like they've played pro before or on a pro league
Yeah, no,
before.
very much. Actually, everybody did. So you weren't nervous. The jitters went off a little bit. Was there a statement to be made? I mean, you were in a showcase game, and we didn't even get into the tag of role model, which is interesting when it comes up to this. But was there a statement that you wanted to make?
I just wanted to have fun.
Yeah.
I think like a lot of people kind of have a negative or not so favorable outlook on mixed, and I just wanted to prove to them like, hey, mixed can be high level and very fun, which is exactly what happened. Like I had a complete blast. I thought actually the entire game that we were down by 2 points, but we weren't. But I was just having so much fun, like I didn't even matter.
I think Audrey said the same thing. She didn't know you thought you were down the whole time too.
I was just kind of surprised when I would look up and see that we were ahead by several points.
Yeah, that's
I
yes.
was like, oh.
I can see that.
That's a
I
good-
know.
that's a good-
That's funny. And you have a big sign with numbers on it.
Right, yeah.
So there's no reason to not know what the score was.
Exactly,
You're not
yeah.
really paying attention to that sometimes.
That's very funny. Yes.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add on that? So nothing. No. So let me step back here. When Lucas mentioned that the highlights that came out of the game were as good as any program he's seen, and that was a great sort of testimonial that someone who's seen a lot of games like, yes, I was delighted with the game. It was so high level, and the win sort of let me know that there was some explanation. It got a little swilly mid-point for 1 or 2 points. Other than that, it was solid. Were you pleased with how the game was played?
Yeah, definitely. I think that like we threw to the open person, no matter what gender it was, it didn't matter, and we had fun.
Now, in talking to a couple of other players about AUDL, Yokao Oka, they talked about the rationale for pro is a couple of throws and then you go down deep because the field's so big and you want to get people off the field. Now, there were points that went a while. How was that?
It was difficult.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to be running for that long with that much space, and then playing offense and defense on the same point can be tiring.
Yes.
Yeah.
On those fields, but
And look, but I saw people who I didn't see anybody holding their knees and winded. Everybody, I think there was a turn back in the corner and you picked up the disc and went back down the other way. I mean, you were unfazed.
adrenaline does help.
That might
Yeah,
be.
definitely.
No, it was unfazed, but it was great. So there was no let on, like the transition from a small field to a big field was even, and that was right on. It was a fun game.
Yeah.
It was really fun to watch. So the reason why they had the showcase game and the Cascades really wanted to bring and champion gender equity and show that women can play at a high level. And so it gets into the statement of role models. This is very funny because role models can be batted around. Charles Barkley talked about in some case, maybe I'm showing my age saying I'm not a role model. This is a rare opportunity to have that thrown out there. Was this something that came in the back of your head, or who brought this up in front of you? Maybe I'm the first one to say, hey.
No, yeah, you definitely are. I think it was interesting after the game, like especially I feel like in other pro games that I've gone to, that like the crowd comes on the field and they ask for signatures and all that stuff, and something like very pro athlete, like role model, like wow, that was a sick play, you did that, like can I have your signature? Kind of like starstruck. But yeah, I really didn't think about that during the game before or after. I guess I was like selfishly just thinking like, what can I do for this team and for this game, and then like how much fun can I have with all these people that I just met.
Yeah.
Same thing?
Yeah, I mean, the people that I was playing with are kind of my role models. So it was like very much, I don't know, I didn't have that feeling going into it. Really, I just had fun.
Yeah, so my standpoint, if I was in your shoes, I'd probably feel the same way. I'm just coming from stepping back and looking at having done research and looking at the larger implications. It comes up like going, well, this is a rare opportunity to say, this might be batted around maybe now, maybe 5 years down the road. You know, what does that look like? Because it's a rare opportunity. You can always say, my father or my teacher, whatever, was a role model, but it's never overtly heard. But this is one of those rare instances in a little microcosm that you can actually see it. And I know during the broadcast, one of the broadcasters says, I know my daughter's going to go down in the field and get autographs. So it was very interesting that maybe, you know, he batted it around. And I said, oh, that's interesting to say that, you know, maybe you heard that. So you haven't. But
no.
So in retrospect, looking at the game, you know, this was just another game for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely difficult since like we hadn't played with each other or like knew like what throws each person had, but I think we just like went with the flow of it and kind of like developed our chemistry during the game, which I think showed. But yeah.
Very nice, very good.
It was another game once we were playing it, but I think there was definitely a lot of like external pressure, you know, it being the first mixed showcase game, just kind of like added some pressure going in,
sure.
For me at least, that I don't normally feel on other games. But once we were playing, yeah, it was just frisbee.
Sure. No, and I could see that very well when you step back and go, look, it was just another game out of a person playing the sport, and I'm here to learn and talk about this, and I can understand that too. At some level, different voices, different feelings, different sentiments, and your mileage may vary. You come away as like, it's just another game, I just want to have fun. Others like, you have external pressures. So can I ask you, what did that look like? When did that come up? Was it self-imposed?
Yeah.
Or did someone...
Oh, definitely self-imposed. I mean, it was just, I've never been to nationals or anything like that, so I'd never really played on a stage that big or in front of a crowd. So yeah, there was definitely self-imposed pressures.
No. So would this make nationals easier when you do get there? Because I'm sure you will.
You have to ask me that. When we
Okay, I hope I do. Absolutely, sooner than later. But yes, that's very interesting. So you played at high level. So this is just another high level game.
Yeah, I guess so. But I don't know. I kind of just like compartmentalized like the whole entire day. Like yeah, like there was like the feeling of being flown here and traveled like a pro athlete, and then like there's the game, and then there's like a crowd in the stadium. I try not to like think of it all as one thing, and just kind of like bit by bit. And so I think that helped, like with the not trying to like freak myself out, like oh my gosh, there's people here. No, so yeah,
I can understand that. So to go back into the process when you made the team, was there any sort of preparation? Did you study the AUDL rules? Did you go out and run more, or go out and throw with some of the players? What were some of the things that in between the obvious appearances where you had to travel in the hotel or get to the game that you did in preparation?
So for the actual, are you talking about the actual tryout or between the tryout and the
between
game?
tryouts. You made the team, and then it's like, oh my God.
I definitely practiced a lot of long throws, knowing that the field would be longer.
Yeah.
Most of my throwing practice was extended lengthwise.
Good.
And then, I don't know, I think I probably did a few more sprints than normal. But
yeah. I thought like
typical workout.
Yeah, I thought like during the game I was like, oh man, I'm definitely gonna cramp. There's so much field to run on, so much field to cover. So yeah, that definitely went through my head.
And so post game, were you cramping after? How
no,
was it?
surprisingly I wasn't.
Oh,
No, we went dancing.
Yeah,
did you really?
Yeah.
Nice, very good. So did you go out with the Cascades team as well? Mm-hmm. Very nice. And how was that like? How was the post?
It was fun.
Party?
It was just, I mean, we're all ultimate players in the same community, striving for the same goals.
Yeah.
So it was kind of just fun to not be competitive, but like just, have a good time.
Yeah.
With like-minded individuals.
Very much so. Very much so. So I'm going to go to my notes here, so the event happens, smoke is cleared, and here we are talking. And so objectively, if you were in the game, but objectively, does this have any, what's the benefit for gender equity? What does it move the needle? Where does it set the stage for what's next?
I think that's probably for the AUDL to decide, but I hope it shifts the needle closer to them considering a mixed pro league. You know, I know that within my own circles, like a lot of people were hoping the MLU would go into being mixed pro. So maybe the AUDL will consider opening a new branch or something. I think a lot of this was a very successful event. I know a lot of my friends said that if all pro games were mixed, they would watch a lot more.
Oh, that's good to know.
But yeah, I hope this shifts the needle. I don't think we are probably the right people to make that decision at this point in our lives and careers and ownership status.
Yeah.
But I really hope that the people in charge saw that this made an impact on, or had an impact for a lot of people, a really positive one.
Yeah. And just like the general Ultimate community seeing like this event and being such like a high level game that like mixed Ultimate or like women's in Ultimate is like just as good as Open or Pro. So yeah, just kind of like an eye-opening experience. It's just something for other people to kind of just get more visibility of.
Yeah, very good. You know, in talking to Lucas, he talked about there was two great mixed cities. There's the Seattle Ultimate community is rich, deep, and there's a deep mixed community as well as here. And so it was really nice to see San Francisco and Seattle come together, and I agree with that. So you talk about it's other people that need to make the decision. So you've played both. We talked about you both played mixed, and you play in single gender. What is the difference in your mind, and why are you playing single gender versus mixed?
Do you want to start?
Sure. So I started my club experience by playing mixed. I played for CLX, a mixed team based out of Iowa, and like that team just became like my family. So many people that like I looked up to, and people that like were just so great as teammates and as role models, I guess I would say. And so I like actually made a rule early on in my life that like I'm gonna play mixed until like I can't anymore, and then I'll play single gender, and not go back. I don't know why I made that rule.
Until you can't anymore.
Until I can't anymore.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Until my body just won't let me anymore. So yeah, I'm not sure why I made that rule, but like when I told like a few other people outside of like the Iowa community that was like my goal, they're like, oh, that's interesting. Like a lot of people do like the opposite. They start in mixed and then they go to single gender. Right. So you're kind of like doing it backwards. But yeah, like I don't want to say that I transferred to women's because mixed wasn't fulfilling any like, I don't know, desire that I had. It was definitely very fulfilling and very rewarding. I just think that through like other life transitions that it was the next step for me to take. And like I've just moved here to San Francisco. I've like been here for a little over a year, and I have a lot of friends and teammates that I've played with before who were on Fury. And so like that was kind of like my goal to play with them again. So yeah, but I've definitely considered going back to mixed. I definitely think it's a great division. I think there's like definitely room for people to like see like how great it is and experience it personally, and also just to watch it. But for now, I'm content, or not content. I'm like very excited for women's in general. So yeah, to promote women's through just the single gender division is kind of my goal.
That's great.
I'm still technically a mixed player. I haven't officially made a single gender women's team yet. But I would say the biggest difference between mixed and single gender is just the different skill levels of the people that you're playing with. You kind of have to have your brain is on a different level, because you have to be thinking about, okay, if it's a guy who has the disc, I have to start my cut a little bit earlier, or a little bit later. I can maybe even, or I can run a little bit deeper. If it's a girl who has a disc, maybe I don't want to start my deep cut super late. It's like those kinds of adjustments that you have to make for mixed versus for women's. I think that's a little bit more interesting, because I like playing with people who I'm cutting for them in a way that they like to throw it or whatever. So I think that mixed has that extra kind of level of complexity, which makes it really fun for me.
Nicely put, though. Yeah, go ahead, please. I don't interrupt you. Yeah.
But women's is also really, really fun, because you don't have that, you know, if you beat your matchup, you win your matchup, and you have a better chance of getting the disc. But in mixed, if you win your matchup, you aren't necessarily always going to get the disc, because if somebody else in your team isn't paying as close attention his guy peels off to help defend you, it's a little more frustrating.
Sure.
So there are pros and cons to both. Personally, I'm still trying to decide what I'm going to do this summer, whether mixed or women's. But
And you're trying out for two good teams. So either way you land, it's going to be some nice
hopefully,
teams. Yeah.
hopefully.
Knock on wood, if this was wood. So it's great. So, yes, it'll win up.
Behind us.
So, so I guess the next step is, if looking at next year when the Cascade Cup comes down to San Francisco, what little tweaks would you like to see? If any, status quo is fine.
I think that they just need to do a little bit better job of promoting the game. Maybe doing a better job of getting younger kids involved in the game, or like coming to it to see it. So I don't know if there's like a way to do discounted tickets, or like bring your class or your team together and it's a smaller fee or whatever. However, I'm not good at that kind of decision, but I definitely think that just kind of getting the word out earlier is really important, because I know that a lot of people were a little frustrated with this event, just not knowing that it was happening until a couple weeks before, until like the roster was set and that kind of a thing. So I think that if they just, start promoting it in a much more kind of just in your face way, that'll help.
Exciting way.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it is exciting. I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people. What the stream was only at, like, there were only 900 people tuned in at the time of the live stream. But I mean, all those people were obviously in groups. I hope people weren't watching by themselves.
I was.
With friends.
I'm sorry.
I know a lot of people were watching with friends at least.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But I think that seeing that number has gotten so much bigger, that game has now been watched several thousand times, because I think people didn't know about it when it was happening, and then afterwards, like, oh, now I get to watch it. That's awesome.
It was a nice broadcast too, Gina. Hi. Yes. No, very good. So,
I was gonna, I guess, add to that just like more involvement on like the people who want to participate in the event too, like more people that would come out to try out for the team and kind of get more excited on that end as well.
I'm sure they're going to have be fantastic down here with the Flamethrowers. So let me go in the same bent of gender equity. I coach a high school team. It is mixed, and it's predominantly male. And I went to the coaching clinic that happened. I think Hannah Kawai was part of it. And I'm trying not to be a caveman being shipped out of a glacier. I'm trying to be very sensitive, and it's important. So if you're coaching, you've both coached. I know Audrey's coached. Have you coached? Okay. So didn't I say you coach with what was that? Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What's your approach to gender equity when it comes to middle school and high school in opening up minds and making sure things are consistent all the way around? If I'm asking the right question.
I think I understand what you're asking. So I coach middle schoolers, so they're obviously very young, and some of them have never even played sports before ultimate frisbee. I think like what me and my co-coach like try to do is just to like implement like we are just gonna be respectful to each other, no matter who you are, who you're friends with on the team, or what gender, and also like whoever is on the field, like your opponent. So kind of just like getting it early for them to just like understand that like when we ask for respect, it's not based on any criteria. It's just based on like, this is another human being. I'm going to respect you. And just like implementing the spirit of the game comes with that, I guess, just like playing respectfully and with good sportsmanship and just playing fair.
Yeah, I coached a middle school team 2 years ago, and we had more girls on our team than a lot of the other teams. Right. So our girls had to match up with guys a lot, but they were just unfazed by it, which was really cool.
Fantastic.
So that was something that we definitely praised. We were just like, continue balling out, girl. Like, you're crushing him.
Exactly.
But we also definitely emphasize respect and spirit of the game and sportsmanship. So is hit the open person, no matter who they are.
Exactly.
No matter if it's a fifth grader
Respect
or a
the
seventh
cut.
grader.
Exactly.
You're throwing it to them because they're open, and that was definitely just like a big part of how we coached.
So do you take them? I'm going to ask some rhetorical questions, but bear with me. So is it like sit them down and like this is sort of the culture that we're going to build, or just sort of through example of running drills and things, you lead by that way.
It's very hard to sit down middle schoolers and expect them to listen. So yeah, we kind of just implement it like after a game against an opponent. We're like, hey, let's do a spirit circle and like talk about things that each team did well, and kind of pat each other on the back kind of way. So we kind of do more through action and less like classroom talk.
Sure, I understand.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago, so I don't remember exactly what our acronym was, but we had like 4 words that we had them remember that spelled out something, so it was easy to remember for them, and we just really emphasized those 4 things. So it was kind of like a sit-down conversation that we had to explain what those 4 goals and ideals of the team would be. And then throughout the season, we would just be like, hey, guys, like, that's not, like, respect was one of them. Like, that's not being respectful of your teammates or whatever. And so we would be able to call them out for, you know, not following the culture that we wanted to create if they weren't following one of those 4 ideals, which they knew about, hopefully. But otherwise, we were trying to lead by example, you know, just initiating high fives between everybody, cheering each other on, saying, like, hey, look, like, she just did something great. You should give her a high five for that or something, and encouraging that kind of relationship between the kids.
So can I follow up with you later if you can remember those 4 things? I'd love to post them. There's a cliffhanger here, but it's good. This is a learning process.
I'll have to go back to my notes.
Please, if you do. So you're coaching college?
I just finished coaching college,
okay.
Yeah.
And that's the women's?
Yes.
Or is it, okay. So how's that like?
That was really fun. I was the coach of the UC Santa Cruz women's team, Seoul, for this past year. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was definitely a challenge because a lot of people starting college don't come in to playing Ultimate. And yeah, it was really interesting, you know, teaching a bunch of rookies basically. And kind of, it's my first year coaching, so I kind of like I felt like I was starting from a fresh slate. Sure. You know, everybody there kind of knew what they were doing, but like you're starting your own system and your own kind of thing. So it was really fun to get girls excited and as passionate about the sport as I am. That was definitely my goal, is just, you know, get people to not quit at the end of the year or throughout the year.
I'm assuming your girls watched you play.
Yeah.
That's good.
They actually made me watch it with them.
Really?
Over again.
How was that like?
It was fun. So the game took place the day before sectionals. So I flew back to Sacramento Saturday morning and had to coach sectionals Saturday and Sunday. So on Saturday night, they all wanted to sit down and watch my game because they'd missed it the night before driving up. And yeah, that was, Audrey's on the field like every single time. I was just like, okay, I don't really have to keep track of this myself.
Yeah. Megan, did you have that opportunity to sit with loved ones and run through the video?
Nope.
Really?
No. Right. I mean, most of my friends watched it on their own, which was awesome. That's great to have that support. So I didn't need to rewatch it with anybody.
Cool. Awesome. So I'm glad we entertained that. So I think we've touched anything. Are there any questions anybody posted at all? Good, I'm glad. This is all. Okay, what's that? 20%. Okay, we're good. We have plenty of time on that one. So on that note, is there anything else you want to add, ladies?
I don't know. I'm excited to see like what happens after this. Like obviously like on the pro stage, like whether or not the pro leagues are going to do anything mixed related in the future, besides like having the Cascades and Flamethrowers Cup, this like one-time event during the season. But I'm also excited to see like if this had any effect on like club players in any way, or in like the USAU and like promoting more video coverage of like women in Ultimate, or equal coverage of all genders. So yeah, I'm excited to see like what future actions are going to be taken after this.
So hang on, just a thought. I know we're doing this crescendo that I'm coming back around. You mentioned that some people were skeptical about mixed.
Skeptical about this event, I think, and kind of what its outcome was going to be. And I was just talking with some of my friends who weren't on the team or but do play frisbee, and they were just like, yeah, like I don't know, like this could be a flop. And I like that never crossed my mind that it could be, because one, I like honestly believe that mixed can be high level, so I didn't think that it wouldn't be that. But the fact of just like logistically planning it, and like the fact that like it's a different game than actual normal ultimate frisbee, and it's new to like all the women that are playing, that could have been something that could have affected the outcome of the game or the quality of the game. So that was very eye-opening to like talk with someone else about that. But it never like really instilled any doubt in me in like the performance that I would bring or like contribute to the team, or like my teammates themselves. But yeah, so like there is doubt out there. I think it's definitely.
Wow, I'm surprised to hear that.
Yeah, and I don't think it's like a bad thing
Sure.
technically. I think it's good to have conversations with people
Sure.
that have a different viewpoint, and kind of talk with them and see like what they're feeling and what they're thinking, and kind of either like try and stand up for your point of view or just like kind of just, I don't know. It was an eye-opening experience for me just to like hear that.
Sure. Talking to Exton Titcomb and Sheena Titcomb, they mentioned that one of the goals of this event was to do exactly what we're doing and what you're having. There's conversations about gender equity, and that's one of the major outcomes. And I agree, because I'm going to be taking some of this knowledge that you've shared with me back to my team and continue to talk about that. But I know you want to chime in on anything you want to add.
Well, something that popped into my head when you were talking was that it was hard. It was probably hard for them to organize too, because it was in the beginning of the AUDL season. So it's like they're starting their own season with their pro teams, their open or men's pro teams, and trying to organize such a major event on top of that, on top of the beginning of the season was, I mean, I can imagine a really hard organizational challenge, but they did a good job. I think that knowing that this event should become maybe at least, if not like an annual thing or its own league, hopefully that will help with the organization in the future, because there has been a groundwork now. And so, yeah, maybe it'll be smoother in the future, but not that it wasn't smooth or well done. It's just with the, short timing and kind of last minute organization, and some things probably fell through the cracks that won't next time.
Sure. Well, I know the energy that the Cascades put together, put their team in. They're traveling. They went north of the border to play the Canadian women's team or mixed team, and so they're going around and taking their power and playing around with it. So it's nice to see it became together, and there was another opportunity for the Flamethrowers to play a Cascade Cup game with whomever may be coming around, so you can build on that. So that was kind of cool to hear. So anything else to add?
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you coming down. Thank you very much. I'm Lawrence McKendall. This is Scooberlicious Ultimate for Audrey Lyman and Megan Liu. Thank you very much for taking the time, coming up here after tryouts and spending time here with me and this fledgling show. And so we'll see you down the road. Next time will be a Spider Cast at the end of the week at the Spider game against the Aviators. Take care.